Good morning. Good morning, Paula. So Paula was here already. You're ready to go. Today's message is gonna be a good message. This is gonna be one of those messages that the one thing that I want us to really take time to reflect on is how we make decisions, right? How do you make decisions? And I think this is one of those things that many people don't make very wise decisions. And that's probably the best way to put it, right? And so today I want to talk about honoring your limits before you commit to something. And this can tell, and I'm talking a lot more in the realm of work, volunteering, right? Those are typically the areas that a lot of people struggle with. So if you are a person that struggles with being able to say no to things, or to make decisions that's going to put your health first, then I definitely want you to drop a one in the chat. If you are watching the replay, how are you? Make sure you hashtag replay so that we know that you were still here with us, even if you wasn't live with us. So why am I talking about this? What happened? Because something has to happen in order for me to have these conversations. So yesterday I was on Threads. Threads is that's my new platform. So you may not see me as often on like Facebook and stuff engaging because I'm over on Threads. And Threads, they be having some interesting conversations. So yesterday, this young lady posted, and she was pretty much ranting about the people that order from Instacart. So Instacart is where they go out to the supermarkets and they do your grocery shopping and they bring it to you. And so she said the people that, and I'm going to assume she might be living in New York because New York is one of the rare places that we do have walk-ups. And I know like other cities like Chicago, some places I've seen in Boston. So I can't say it was only in New York. But she said, if you know you live in a walk-up, don't order more than 3 cases of water. And so I said to her, which got me blocked. So I put that disclaimer out. I said to her, I said, so you didn't do any self-reflection prior to you committing to doing Instacart? Because I thought about doing Instacart when I lived in New York. And that was actually one of the things that caused me to not do Instacart, because I understand that there are going to be people who are going to order cases of water, the 12 pack of sodas, and they're going to want their stuff and they're going to want it at their door. And I know that a lot of buildings, especially I grew up in a building, we lived on the 4th floor as a walk up. You got to carry everything upstairs. So I had to make a determination. Is this the best gig work for Tanisha? Right? And that is something a lot of people don't do. They look at the money. They go on YouTube, they look on social media, and everyone is talking about, and I think this is definitely became popular like in 2020. Everyone was getting, oh, I'm gonna do Instacart because they make the most money. But you also have to assess, is this something that you're physically capable of doing? And some people it's gonna be, are you mentally, are you socially, are you financially, are you energetically capable of doing this particular task? It should not only be, oh, I can make this amount of money, because you can make a lot of money and hurt yourself. And if you are a gig worker, that means you are 1099. That means that you are not covered under insurance. There is some insurance, but I guarantee you it's going to be a lot harder for you to get those claims approved than it is for you to just say, you know what, maybe this is not going to be the one that I do. I would do Instacart in Tulsa, but I wouldn't do Instacart in Brooklyn, because I understand that I'm going to have some physical challenges. I physically have a herniated disc. I cannot be carrying anything 2, 3, 4, 6 cases, but I'm also not going to have the audacity to tell someone or to just say in a public forum, people shouldn't order this because they are paying for a service, right? So when you know that, you have to start thinking like, hey, is this something that I need to self-evaluate before I fully commit to this? right? Yes, Paula, they have to. And that's the problem. People don't know their limits. So they're just out here going, 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 going. And I see this a lot when we are talking about people in careers. They're just out here like, they're going after the money. And I understand we all need money. We need money to survive. We need money to pay our bills, to just maneuver in life. But you don't need to hurt yourself. You don't need to put yourself in a situation where you're going to, put any kind of stress, unnecessary stress, because everything is going to have some level of stress. But some of y'all are going out here and you're knocking on the doors that's going to give you the most extreme stress. See, I don't believe in that. I don't want that for you, because I do know that we don't have to live a life like that. So I want you to really think about that. Do not disregard your limits. Be very honest with yourself. This is why self accountability, self reflection, it comes with, it's only useful when you are honest with yourself. If you're not honest, if you do not believe, oh, I can do everything, then go ahead. You can go ahead and do everything. Cool. But an honest person is going to sit back and say, you know what? Yeah, this one, because even Uber Eats back in so this was before COVID. So 2018, 2019, I want to say it was 2019. COVID, Uber Eats had started in Manhattan, where you can make money doing Uber, delivering to people in your neighborhood. So in Manhattan, it was a lot easier because if you go like to Midtown, if you ever been to the city, Midtown, you have like all these restaurants and everything. So, and you got all these businesses. So it's very easy for someone who works 2 blocks away to order from Chipotle, but they can't go outside, and go get their lunch. So they will put in the order. So now you can go out there and you can walk. So someone said to me, I don't like walking. So why would I do that? That is an honest assessment, right? I could not be mad at that person. They knew that they do not have a desire to walk. They are not trying to get their 10, 20,000 steps a day. So this was not up their alley. And they walked away from that opportunity. They needed the money, but they knew I am not going to be as motivated to go out there and do this, because it's going to require me to do a lot more walking than I'm willing to do. Yeah, I'm good. I'm not doing it. Paula said, even full-time gigs. Yes. If overtime is expected, why complain that this over? Girl, first of all, can we talk about that, Paula? Because let me tell you, I'm not a fan, right? So again, I can only speak about New York because I was there for 39 years, still closely affiliated. There's an agency in New York City that people will sign up to work there, right? Everyone is like dying to get into this particular agency. The starting pay for that agency is very low. It's in the 40s. $40,000 in New York City. You have to have a roommate. You have to live with family. Like unless you got into a good deal and you're like in a rent stabilized $40,000, you are going to struggle financially. And so they will tell you, like, one of the selling points of this particular agency is, well, your first year you can make 80,000 with overtime. And so they forget that part, right? They miss that part. That's the part that I focus on, because I'm like, so in order for me to make a livable wage, I have to do overtime. Yeah, I'm not signing up for that, right? That means that I'm never going to do a 9 to 5. I'm never going to get off on my regular time and be able to do whatever I want. That means that sounds like a 60 to 70 hour work week in order for me to make my rent. That means that it's overtime. I'm not doing that. Right. So a person like me is very self-aware. I know, don't apply for that job, because also it's going to be physically straining to me. So now I'm going to be physically strained at 70 hours a week. Absolutely not. And so many people go into these things and they don't reflect on that. All they hear is the money, right? They hear numbers and the numbers sound good, but they're missing the words that are going before and after, and they're forgetting how they all come together. So you are truly, truly, truly putting yourself in this harmful way. And then you're going to be online probably 5 years talking about, oh, my back, my knee, this happened, the physical, I'm so tired. They don't give me a break. Yeah, because you signed up for that. You fed into that. I guarantee you, if less people stop feeding into that and they start getting less applicants, yeah, I bet you that starting pay is going to eventually go up, because that happened with NYPD. NYPD, they did something crazy. They reduced the starting pay for the new those who's coming out the academy, and it was like 20 something thousand. It was like very insulting, right? And literally, you had other cities advertising in New York. I think Seattle was one of the cities that were advertising in New York. That's how disrespectful they were. They were like, come to Seattle, be a police officer, starting pay $60,000, because that's how disrespectful. And guess what? In that time frame, NYPD did see a decrease in applicants. Yeah, eventually people are gonna stop playing in your face, right? But I'm just saying, hey Nicole, how are you this morning? Look, I'm with you, Paula. Some days it's a struggle to get to them 40. 35, 40, it's a struggle. This is why I love the work that I do. This is why I put myself in a position to get a position that I truly enjoy. Even on the days that are stressful, it gets me easier. But maybe some days, that Friday, I'll be excited to log off this computer. So you have to, again, this is just about you. And I have all these notes, and I ain't even touching on half of them, but we are touching on half of them, right? Yes, Paul, you remember LAPD was advertising Seattle, and it was another city. It was a city down south. 3 cities came to New York, put up billboards because they heard of the disrespect that was going on here, right? So this is why I'm saying, like, you have to honor your limits. You don't let society, and this is what society is going to continue to do. Society is going to continue to do these disrespectful things. We started seeing it. We see, I mean, and going back to the gig work, there's a lot of gig work that people have stopped doing. I stopped doing Uber Eats. I stopped doing DoorDash because in New York, it's a lot harder because you're wasting, like, you end up spending most of the money on your gas because I was driving. And so, I just want people to just realize, like, you got to figure out if this money is going to be worth it, right? When I first started with it and they was giving out all of these bonuses, yeah, it was definitely worth it. When I started Uber Eats, luckily I did start when I started because good morning, Dollface. Oh, I love you. Thank you, Nikki. I mean, Nikki Nicole, I keep calling you Nikki. But yeah, so many people, I was able to start, and then like 2 days after, my toilet in my apartment started going crazy. And because I have to fix that. And that became great. It was like a great ability to have to pay that. I didn't have to come out of my savings. I just went and I redeemed the money that I made at Uber Eats and DoorDash, and then I was just able to make that payment. But a lot of people don't have that. But so I understand why some people have to do it. But this is the reason why I feel like a lot of people ignore their own limits. So the first thing is that a lot of people, they're really afraid of missing out, right? They're missing out on this money, right? But there's so many different things that we can do to make money. So this is why I always say, you can try everything, right? I'm one of those people, try it before you knock it. And again, unless like I said, for Instacart, for me in New York, I knew that was going to be a no-go because I knew there was going to be people like my sister. My sister, when COVID happened, she was working crazy. So she was doing Instacart, 4 cases of water to the 4th floor. I know there are people like that. And she tips really well. I don't care how much you tip. The tip is not going to stop my pain, the pain from happening. So I have to know that. But other than that, you can try everything as you are figuring out, what does this lifestyle look like? Because this is what it becomes, a parallel conversation eventually. And I'll give you a perfect example. If you've been following me for a while, you probably seen me when I was, you probably was here when I was big, and then I lost all this weight, kept it off for a couple of years, and then I gained some weight back. And we're talking about the years in between. I needed money and I started to do meal prepping. Now that sounds like a great business idea, but I was thinking in the future. And the future of what my life what I wanted my life to look like was, I wanted to travel. I wanted to be remote so that I can have the ability to travel. And I knew that eventually I was going to get there. And if I continue doing the meal prepping for other people, it was going to become an issue when I'm ready to just pack up and go, because now I have to think about my clients. So what I had to make a decision. So I did it for a while because of the fact that it was money. I knew I wasn't going anywhere, but again, you got to think about the future as well. And it wasn't until I had this one main client, he was a bodybuilder. So his meal plan was really like I think he was paying me about $375 a week for his meals. So I was making good money, but it was also becoming energetically too tiring for me because I'm spending all Saturday night into Sunday making all of these meals for 7 days. If you know anything about macros and bodybuilders, they need a lot of protein. And at that time, I had cut back on a lot of protein. So I'm like around all of this beef and this pork and this chicken. And I'm just like, I'm physically getting sick. And I'm just like, this is not for me. So I shift gears, and that's when I started to offer my clients who had the ability, who just needed that comfort, who needed those ideas. I would do coaching. I would coach them through their meal prep process on the phone. So you have company, you have me there. I'm helping you with the recipes, but I'm just not physically doing them because I needed them to get to that point of doing it themselves. Same thing with the smoothies. I wanted them to become self-sufficient. I wanted them to be independent, because I know that when God turned this around, I'm packing up the bags and I'm going somewhere, and then you're going to be left out. And I didn't want that for my clients. And it worked out. They understood and they got what they needed, and they're able to take that knowledge. So, did you see Nicole say earlier, take those notes? Yes, I want you to take those notes, because when you are given the knowledge, when you are given information, that means that you have the ability to apply it at any time that you need it. Right? You don't have to go and reproduce or rebuy something because you already have this knowledge. As long as you retain it, you can always go back and you can redo it. And so that's what I wanted my clients. I wanted them to have that. I wanted them to, I also realized that a lot of people they ignore their limits because they're trying to people please, right? So someone out there, and it might not so much be people pleasing, but it's also social pressure. Right. So society had people thinking like, well, no, if you're not doing Instacart, you're not making enough money. Oh, you could quit your 9 to 5 and just do Instacart. But again, you're not knowing your limitations. You're not knowing what you're capable of physically doing, which means that you're not going to make the money that they're making, because they're out there hustling and they're doing the fifth floor walk up in Bushwick with no problems, carrying 3 and 4 cases of water. Or they got a man and their man is with them and he's carrying up them cases and they're not, so it's like you have to know what's best for you. And this is why I say you have to honor. So in order for you to honor your limits, you have to know your limits. In order for you to honor anything, you have to know what are those limits, and then you have to stand it. That's just like a boundary. This is my boundary, and you got to learn how to stand 10 toes down on that boundary in order for anything to work, anything anything to actually be successful, so that you don't feel that burnout. Because the worst thing, again, I physically have been harmed because of these things. I had a mouth stroke when I was 22. I was working in corporate America. I'm giving them my all, right? So what Paula was saying earlier, I was giving these people my all, okay? Because that was instilled in me. I just came out of college. I'm trying to prove myself. And my body was like, oh, we can't handle this. Like, you're going too fast and you're doing too much and you're not resting. And eventually I ended up having a mild stroke. And I tell people that all the time, because at that time, when my body shut down, everything could have went away. I could have passed away. That could have been the worst case scenario, or I could have been disabled to the point where I could not make that kind of money. Because when you get disabled, you get into a fixed income now. So you're no longer making the big bucks. No overtime, right? There's no overtime and disability. So you have to think about that. So if money is your only driving force, I do ask you to reflect and find another driving force, because the money is going to be there, right? You can always move to an area that is less money, right? It costs less. So the cost of living. So I'm not saying come to Tulsa, but I'm just saying, me moving from New York to Tulsa, that's a huge cost of living difference, right? I don't need necessarily. Doesn't mean that I still don't want what I'm worth, but I don't need the $100,000 anymore because of the cost of living difference, right? Someone can come out here and live comfortable on 50,000, right? They can live very comfortable, have a more healthier life. You're outside in the sun. You have access to the sun more. It's a better pace. So you just have to figure out what is it that you need in order for you to thrive and be successful. Absolutely, Paula, health is wealth, right? So we have to take those things into consideration. And I think so many times people hear that phrase, how health is wealth, they only think about weight. No, your weight is not the only thing. Most people are internally dying because of their pressure, right? They have high blood pressure. Their body is, can't take it. And when you start to have high hypertension, it starts to affect different organs. Like, these are silent things that we don't take into consideration. And again, when you are just out here hustling, 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 like, we hear the hustle mentality. We have the songs, every day I'm hustling by Rick Ross. That's one song that just popped into my head. But it's like, okay, but what else? Right? This is where people like me, we're talking about. Yes, the number of people, Paula, that I have been seeing on social media talking about they have ulcers and they're under 35. And I'm just like, ulcers? Like, what is going on? Like, baby, you need to stop stressing. Like, you need to figure out a balance. So I'm going to give you 3 questions that I want you to ask yourself. And let me see if I can put these up here real quick. But 3 questions that I want you to ask before you start to commit to anything. And then I'm going to end here. First question is, do I have the capacity for this? Right? Do you have the capacity? Write this down. These are questions that you need to ask yourself before you commit to anything. Do I have the capacity for this? Okay. All right, good. I have that. I have everything to fit in here. So that's the first thing. So do I have the capacity? And again, this means physically, emotionally, spiritually, and even financially if you are on the other side. Right? Is this commitment going to be aligned with my season of life and the priorities that you have? Okay. So again, this is a lot of self-reflection of what does that season of your life look like today, and if this particular commitment is going to have any form of alignment, or if it's going to take you off of alignment from that. And if you say yes, does this take away from your peace, or does this add any form of pressure? Right? Am I saying yes from peace or pressure? Before you commit to anything, right? And I wrote a post the other day on Facebook. Like, I need people to be okay saying no. I need people to be okay saying no, right? And Paula, I'm gonna on YouTube, I'm gonna post these as in the pinned comment, so you can always come back for these 3 journal prompts, okay? But if we sat down and just reflected on these 3 questions, that would help you. But if you just want to say no, say no. Like, I had to, like, so no, I went to someone, and I was like, I needed their help on something, and they gave me an answer that I typically associate with, you just want to say no, and you're trying to find a way to say no without saying no and putting the blame on yourself. Just say no. And I wasn't hurt and I wasn't offended. Just say no. If it's not something that you want to do, it's okay to say no. And I had to share that because I think so often we become so afraid. Are people going to not speak to me anymore? Are they not going to support me? No, baby, it's just a no. And everyone needs to be okay with that. Right? So you're not missing out on anything, because I always say, when you say no, you're going to say yes to the right things. Right? And you can say no 10 times. Right? The same way people can say no to you 10 times. And then that one yes comes. You can also say no 10 times and say yes to the right yes. That's it. Right? So this conversation definitely did not go where I wanted to, but that's okay, because this is what God does. Right? But I'm going to post these 3 journal prompts and the pinned comment. I'm going to drop it also on Facebook, because I think these are very good questions for you to reflect on as you're going through this journey of honoring your limits. And I want that to be the focus. Take this. I understand it's Tuesday, but take this for the rest of the week. How can you honor your limits in anything and everything? Volunteering in your church, your community, even your family, right? You also have to learn how to honor your limits before you commit to anything. Okay. So as always, I am your girl, Tanisha Shanae, Miss Inspiration. I'm here every Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. Central Time, 8 a.m. Eastern. Share, tell a friend, tell them to bring their tea, their coffee, their water, whatever they desire, and come hang out with me as I inspire you. God gives me messages And we just go out here and do some amazing things. Okay, you can go to my link tree. You can connect with me there on my books. You can also see on my other socials, my community, Inspirational Trailblazers, our courses and different blogs, and you can definitely go. So Paula, you are so welcome. Nicole, if you are still here, I hope you have an amazing day with purpose, on purpose. I love you guys. Have a great one, and I'll see you tomorrow morning.